Hello everyone. Buongiorno everyone. Buongiorno tutti, I guess I should say. Um, in a couple days you'll be hearing a lot of that. I'm incredibly excited for you all to experience this. It's really just an amazing country, an amazing uh, experience. The programming is great, all the locations, all the people that you get to talk to. You have a lot to look forward to in the next couple of weeks. So I'm sure everyone's really busy packing, getting ready, and everything. So I decided to record this video instead of having a meeting. So the goal here is just to give you some basic culture and travel tips to help sort of make your experience as smooth as possible, and to sort of and hopefully make you feel a little more comfortable a little more quickly than you would otherwise. It helps just to know a few things um, that is sort of like culturally specific to Italy. And just to be clear, no matter what you do, as long as you're safe and you're respectful, and you embrace the experience, like you're gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be cool. This just may help you feel a little more comfortable. And again, this is of course is not comprehensive, but it is some I think some things that you may find helpful when you're over there. So a few tips about meals and food. So breakfast is different than you're probably used to. Um, they're not big on eating. Uh, they don't eat like egg sandwiches aren't really a thing over there. You can absolutely get them, but it's not something that Italians do. Their breakfast, at least in most parts. Now, this can change if you go in different parts of Italy, but in Rome in particular, it's you go to a cafe and you get a pastry and you have a cappuccino or other coffee drink. Cappuccinos are really popular in the morning. And one cultural tip, one thing that it doesn't matter. Again, you can do this if you want to, just so you know. So again, so you feel a little more comfortable. Cappuccinos are really only for breakfast. So they Italians really don't have cappuccinos after like 10 or 11 a.m. They're meant for breakfast. And um, the nice thing about having this sort of alternative breakfast option is their pastries are absolutely incredible, as you may imagine. Um, there's just so many good pastries. And I can just say when I was in Italy recently, I was in Rome most of the time, and that was that was my breakfast. A pastry and a cappuccino. And actually, this is a picture of one of my breakfasts. Pretty common, like a nice cappuccino. Maybe I'd have an espresso if I felt like I needed a little more caffeine, and then a pastry. And there's just all kinds of different pastries. And like if you go into a cafe, which is usually called a bar, it might be called sometimes it's called a cafe, but also might be called a bar. So just a heads up, a bar is really refers to a coffee shop. And this is a really common sight. You walk into one of these coffee shops and you see a display case, like a glass display case like this. And what they do for most of their food options in these places, so these are not restaurants, these are coffee shops in particular, is they set out the sandwiches in these cases in the morning. And then if you want one of these sandwiches, and there's like, you can go in, you can find breakfast sandwiches, you can find regular sandwiches, whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of options for you. And if you do get one from a bar, what they'll do, they ask you caldo, which is hot. And the standard is to take one of those sandwiches out of the case, put it in a little, it looks like a George Foreman grill. It's like, whatever you call those things, the little quick grill. And they'll heat it up and then they'll hand it to you. And, sometimes they'll ask you if you want it to go. Usually they assume that you don't. So you'd have to tell them. And that's, if you want to know, it's portate via. Portate via means to go, or per portate via, where it's like for to go. But if they ask you, or you can just say to go, and they'll usually understand you. But that's the standard. If you do want to have something in a sandwich, you just say, yeah, I'd like this one here, and they would usually just put it in the grill and they give it back to you either on a plate or they give you in a bag. It's to go. But you can see there's sandwiches here at the top. There's some salads here, so I mean this is all pretty normal for a coffee shop. And then you see all these pastries down at the bottom. They usually have a really good selection of pastries. Another just a tip, there's a difference between pastries and desserts, right? So cartocci, that's that's a pastry. Okay, so you see these like on a plate, and you can see it's like cream filled or pudding filled. You have this sfogliatella, very distinct. You see these like folds in there. Sfolia means like layers, so sfogliatella. That's a pastry, so that's a pastry. Tiramisu, which I may be familiar with, that's a dessert. We have biscotti. Biscotti are, it's kind of, you can do a little bit of either, but they're more of a pastry. You have bombolini, nice fun thing to say. Bombolini, which is basically a donut. It's like a donut. And these are really interesting. What they'll do is they'll take these, and then they usually have options for you. And this is just a plain, we'll call it a plain donut, like a glazed donut, basically. Um, and they'll ask you, usually they'll have options to fill it. Like you fill it with cream, you can fill it with pudding, you can fill it with chocolate, etc. Right? So those are really interesting. A good pastry, breakfast pastry. Your cannoli, that's kind of again another one of those in between ones. You can have those certainly for dessert. They're offered at a lot of restaurants for dessert, but that also can be considered a pastry. That's kind of in between. So gelato, I hope that you get a gelato when you're there. The gelato there is amazing. It's Italian ice cream, but it's a little more than that. And there's gelaterias everywhere, gelaterie in Italian. And so look for a good, ask your SAI about there's some that are known as like better gelato spots. Certainly, that's something that Italians specialize in. Panna cotta is a pretty common dessert, so that is not a pastry, that's a dessert. Um, and so that's just, I mean, there's so many different ones. Like you're going to encounter new ones. So look, when I'm there, my advice for what it's worth is I'm not a big dessert person. I don't eat pastries for breakfast normally, but when I'm there, that's what I do. You just kind of do as the Italians do, like the whole when in Rome thing. Um, yeah, I'm not, you do you, but I personally, I'm not in Italy very often, so I really want to just experience the food as much as possible. So I like to try different things. I'll eat things for breakfast that I absolutely wouldn't normally do. Like I don't normally eat dessert after dinner, but I'll eat it there because we're in Italy, right? So if you have the means, you have the resources, take advantage of some of these. Like try some different things you've never tried before. You're not always gonna like it, but go with a couple friends, grab a couple different things, try each other's stuff, and maybe you'll find something that you really like. And who knows, maybe it's something you can get some of these pastries over here in the United States. I would say Italian restaurants here, like the food, it's just not the same. But like pastries, you can get a pretty solid Italian style pastry and dessert here. Again, it's sort of hit or miss, but there are some good places out there. So that's kind of some of the breakfast tips. Cappuccino and a pastry is really normal. But look, if you get a sandwich, no one's gonna like look at you sideways. I'm just there, here to say like that's not normally what they eat, but it's totally fine. Like if you need to have something more substantive for breakfast, like get one of those sandwiches. I mean, I certainly have done that before. It's entirely up to you. Just so you know, it's not like you're going to be looked down upon. They're like, oh yeah, whatever. Even if you eat like a chicken sandwich for breakfast, like they don't care. They'll heat it up for you and they won't think twice about it. So, um, but the cappuccino and the like late after it's like 3 o'clock and you're having a cappuccino, like honestly, they may look at you like, really? You're gonna cappuccino now? So, but again, you can still do it. It's just, that's a little more of a, I guess, a strong cultural norm. Okay, in terms of lunch, when they're so it's kind of backtracking a little bit, breakfast are always provided. Every morning you will have some kind of breakfast. I can't vouch for what the breakfasts are going to be. They may be like a continental breakfast. They may be like an amazing spread. When you're on the farm in Calvanico, you'll again, assuming nothing has changed. I mean, you get spoiled. All your meals are like incredible. It's like the full Italian Monty, right? Like they'll just put out this amazing spread. It's like, wow, I don't have much food, but I have a little something, and then they prepare this like incredible, like all these different options, all homemade, all that stuff. So um, at the farm, you really all your meals are taken care of, and so you don't have to worry about any of this, and they will overfeed you. I mean, you have so much food there that you honestly won't be able to eat it all. But the breakfasts are great, the lunches are great, the dinners are great. when you're in Rome, you do get provided breakfast. When you're in Salerno, you get provided breakfast, but it's from the hotel. So it's a crapshoot. It's whatever they have. Sometimes it's really great spread. Sometimes it's just like an American hotel, right? Like muffins and coffee and stuff like that. So if you do go out to breakfast, that's and you can have like a late breakfast, like after you go out. Um, for lunch, most of the time you are on your own for lunch. When you're traveling, again on the farm, they're taking care of all the meals, and there's another couple lunches sprinkled in there. But you will be providing lunch for yourself a number of times. In terms of lunch, you have options. I mean, you can go the sort of common thing. So culturally, the common thing, again, this is mostly in Rome. For lunch, if you're out and about, you just go to like they have there are some delis out there where you can just go and get a sandwich, you can get some fruit or whatever. You can go to a coffee shop and they'll have again they have all these sandwiches, so that's a good place for sandwiches. Or you can see there's salads. There's other options as well. But that's really common, and you're going to be out and about most of the time. In Rome, you're going to be out on doing programming, and so if you're getting a lunch, just you can find peek into a cafe, a coffee shop and again, they'll have these display cases there, and you can find normal, quote unquote, normal lunch food there. So that's pretty normal. I personally, again, when I'm traveling and I'm in Italy, I indulge a little bit. I wouldn't normally eat pizza for lunch, but the pizza there is just so good. It's incredible. I mean, there's so much good pizza there. It's you can I don't know. It's hard to describe. You just have to try it, and I'm really excited for you all to try it. So a really great way to have a good pizza lunch is something called pizza al taglio. So a GL is so pizza al taglio. It just means pizza by the cut. And there's all these places are all over the place, especially in Rome and in other cities. And you just walk around and you look in there, and they have these display cases with all their pizzas. Or what they do is they bake big pizzas, um, and there's just an amazing variety. And you go to a different shop down the street, and they're going to have different pizzas. Now there's you have your like standard, right? Like your margarita, your um, they usually have like a red pizza with without any cheese on it. But then all bets are off. Other than that, I mean, I've had potato pizza. I mean, that means pizza with potatoes on it. I've had a pizza with sausage and peas on it before. You can see here, there's probably what they got one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. There's like 9 or 10 different pizzas in the image to the left here. So just add, they'll label them. Now sometimes they're in Italian, but use your app. But in Rome, it's a touristy city. Salerno is a little less so. And certainly in Calvanico, it's going to mostly be in Italian because it's not a big tourist area. But it'll tell you what's on the pizza. And then this is great, and I think we went over this before. I believe I sent Tara or I sent a video out about this. You can get as big a slice as you want. You can see they're cutting it here. And so that's why it's called by the cut. So what they do is they make these big pizzas, and then you like point to your pizza or tell them which one you want, and then they'll like sort of point, say like, do you want this much? Do you want this much? And they'll sort of slide the scissors over. And you can say that's good, or you can say basta, stop, which is like that's good, that's enough. And then what they do is they'll cut it like that. They throw it or they throw it, they set it into a little oven and they heat it up for you, and then they fold it like that, and they put this little wax paper around it so you can take it to go. So this is designed to be eaten to go. And it's a great quick lunch, generally not very expensive. You spend $3 to $5 for something like this, and it's really filling um, most of the time. And it's pretty normal. You'll see a lot of, let's put it this way, you'll see a lot of people in there. You'll probably have to wait in line, but it's a really great way to get a lunch. Again, it's up to you, but if you don't have to spend a lot of money, and I highly, highly recommend you at least do this once, if not a couple of times. Try it for a couple of slices of pizza. It's just amazing. And again, SAI, the vendor over there, they can recommend some good pizza shops for you. And we did send out a couple videos on the WhatsApp as well. So pizza al taglio, great way to have lunch. I highly recommend it. And then I'll usually get this in like an espresso, or whatever. So that's a really good way, and I do hope you take advantage of that for lunch. But you can get sandwiches. There's delis, and there's of course regular grocery stores as well. Some dinner tips. Again, when I don't normally go out to dinner very much, but when I'm there, I do like to go out to dinner because the food is just so incredible. In Rome, in particular, there are restaurants you can't not find a restaurant. There's just restaurants everywhere. Frankly, I don't know how they all, are financially viable because there are just so many restaurants. So again, SAI provided that document with some tips for good restaurants to go to. I would definitely check that out. Um, you want to normally avoid the restaurants in the heavily touristed areas, like near the Pantheon and Piazza Navona and all that. I mean, there's some good restaurants there. I'm not saying that they're not, but there's a lot of these sort of like side restaurants that tend to be a little bit less expensive. But you know, there's not a huge difference that time of year. Like they're all going to be pretty busy. So again, just look at SII's recommendation for restaurants to go to. And I do recommend if you can at least once go to Piazza Navona, which is the big piazza that looks like a racetrack that we've talked about a couple times, and have dinner, at least have a glass of wine or something, and just hang out at Piazza Navona in the evening. It's really lively. You can see there's people playing music here. That's really common. There's people just, I don't know. It's an interesting scene. Let's put it that way. It's a great people watching area. So I do highly recommend at least go there. I mean, you don't even have to glass of wine. Just go there and hang out. But it's nice to sort of enjoy dinner or something else in the Piazza Navona. It's kind of like a classic when in Rome, do this at least once. Um, if obviously it's a big wine culture, as we've talked about. So, it's very, very, very normal to enjoy a glass of wine with dinner. Again, in those SAI documents, they explain all this. Italian in Italy, it's very much looked down upon to drink too much. They drink frequently, but not a lot. That makes sense. So in other words, they drink a lot of the time, but they just don't drink very much when they're drinking. They'll have like a glass or two, maybe three with dinner. Three is pushing it, honestly. Um, but if you're into drinking some wine, I do recommend, you go to these restaurants, just get the house wine. It's going to be good. And they'll usually say like we have red or white or a rosé or whatever, and just get whatever you're into. Um, you don't have to buy the expensive wine, really. Um, and so with dinner, a lot of your dinners are provided, but in terms of your options for dinner, again, there's a ton of restaurants. But you can also, they have regular grocery stores, right? So keep in mind, like it's just a normal country, they have grocery stores all over the place. There's like, they have some of the smaller ones and they have the bigger ones, corner stores, like we have. So this is a picture of one when I was there last time. Incidentally, I took this because it's really interesting. Like you go into this store, it's just a little corner store, not very big, and of course there's wine and a little deli and all that. But the back of it, if you can see the back here, it's like the stone. I don't know. It's almost like it's in a cave. It's really interesting. So there's a lot of really quirky things in a lot of these stores and restaurants, which is another thing that I love about Rome. Just sort of put things in places that you wouldn't normally put. And I've seen other things where it's like basically a cave bar. Like there's stuff like that that's really cool. But anyway, if you want to save money on food, you can go to the grocery store. And a lot of the grocery stores will have delis in them, and the sandwiches are usually pretty cheap, but they have all the regular staples. Um, they don't always have exactly the same thing. There may be some things that you can't find, but it's really just like a normal grocery store. So that's a really good way to save money for any meal, certainly. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this video, end this here, and then in the next video I'm gonna talk about some focus on the cultural tips.